Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Cutter One. I am your host, Jay, just Jay, your resident troublemaker, your resident culture warrior. I hope you are all doing absolutely amazing as we are into day 2 of the week, of the work week. All right. First of all, just want to touch on a couple of things. First of all, thank you to everybody who showed up during the live stream. It was really, really cool. I had a really good time. I hope you guys had a really good time. Got to check out a bunch of really, really, really great stuff from other Tolkien fans within the Tolkien community, as it were. And I hope you enjoyed seeing their creative endeavors that have been inspired or based on Tolkien. And potentially have checked them out and subscribed to their channels and stuff like that. But had a really great time, really, really awesome time. We had the first ever monthly trivia contest. So that's the trivia contest. We do the last stream of every month, and seeing as how our next stream will be in the first weekend of March, as today is the last day of February. We did our first monthly trivia contest, and the winner was Diane K, who I honestly didn't think that many people were going to get it right, the trivia question. I thought it sort of would have been a curveball because, it wasn't Tolkien related, but it was fantasy, and it was classic sort of fantasy. But quite a few of you actually got all three parts of that question right. What it came down to is it came down to whose email got to me first, and literally for a couple of you, like there was literally seconds. I had to go check out the timestamp on the emails to see whose was actually there first, and there was a couple of them that were like seconds apart, like 15, 20 seconds, but seconds apart. So that's what it came down to. So congratulations to Diane. Slight little delay in the shipping out of your prize, only in the sense that we're getting some really craptacular weather here right now in PA, and trying to operate within that, as well as get to work and then get out of work and try and get to either a post office before they close, or like a UPS store is proving to be far more difficult. I honestly didn't even realize we were getting like these snowstorms that we're getting. So my apologies for that. But it will be on its way, and I will reach out to you and send you the tracking number as soon as I have it. All right. So that covers the stuff from the weekend, from the live stream. Let's get right into it. All right, so you know about the Warner Brothers thing, the New Line Cinema thing, right? And yes, I know some people are like, well, actually, Cutter, you weren't the first person to get a video out about that. I've with a little investigating, I think there was one other YouTube channel that may have had a video out before me. That's all I can confirm, because I did look, and there was one other channel. But all my usual sources that I subscribe to, most of them didn't. Most of them didn't get the story out till either a little bit after I did, or the very next day. So, take it for what it's worth. Again, it's just one of those things where, I know for a fact I got the story out literally within 34 minutes of the Hollywood Reporter dropping the story. And the reason why I know that is because when I was filming it, it said the story was 34 minutes old. So take that for what it's worth. Anyway, that was just my little patting myself on the back there. All right. So we know about the New Line Cinema thing and the announcement with Warner Brothers that they're going to be making more Lord of the Rings films, potentially with Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh, and Philippa Boyens involved. Well, you knew that it would not take long for people to sort of see the way I immediately said that this was going to be a shot across the bow to Amazon's The Rings of Pewter, right? Or Rings of Poo-Boo, as we've come to know it. And other creators are picking up on that now, that this has sort of got the Amazon people sitting there having to sit back and reevaluate and, sort of shaking in their boots a little bit. But so in response to that, now what we're going to see is the articles with the copium, right? And the hard sell, right? And we've already got one. And this is coming to us from the good folks over at Screen Rant. This is one Bradley Prom, okay? And this story is only 7 hours old. Okay, so as I bring it to you, this story is simply 7 hours old. It said, what worked in Amazon's Lord of the Rings of Poo Poo. From thrilling visuals and performances to entertaining new characters, The Rings of Poo Poo is an enticing adventure through Tolkien's lore. All right, so you know what's coming, right? You guys know what's coming with this one. All right, sorry, I'm just looking at the old computer here. All right. So let's see. What does Bradley have to say? While some things need fixing for season 2, there's even more that worked in The Lord of the Rings of Poo Poo season 1. The series invited audiences back to J.R.R. Tolkien's fantastical world of Middle-earth, home to elves, dwarves, orcs, men, hobbits, and so much more, though with some unexpected changes. Which is the understatement of the day. In crafting this tale set during the Second Age, The Lord of the Rings of Poo Poo, condensed the timeline and altered some intriguing aspects of Tolkien's lore. This led to some polarizing responses from audiences, though some of that stemmed from toxicity and bigotry, to be frank. You know what? Go F yourself, Bradley. No, it didn't. Almost none of it did. Sure, there's always outliers and stuff like that, but to continue to try and to push that as the main reason why there was backlash against the show is both dishonest to your readers and just outright insulting. So F you, Bradley, for even trying to still push that failed argument. But I digress. Let's continue. Filming for Season 2 began in October, although given the time required for special effects and their new filming situation in the UK rather than New Zealand, it likely won't be on Prime until mid-2024, and nobody will care. Excitingly, though, Season 2 will explore what Tolkien never touched, as the stranger and Nori travel to Rhûn, far in the east. There's a lot to look forward to, especially if they fix some of the issues in pacing and unnecessary lore changes. Thankfully, Season 1 was established with captivating and subtle foundations so that can continue to grow and develop. Okay, I'm sorry. I got a little carried away there. All right, let's continue going. The visual quality. Lord of the Rings of Power certainly puts its incredible budget to good use regarding the show's visual effects. So many moments throughout the season stand out as utterly stunning, from Galadriel's recounting of the First Age at the beginning to the end of when Halbrand's finally revealed as Sauron. Overall, The Lord of the Rings of Poo Poo, looked good, regardless of any other issues plaguing the show, and there was a shit ton of them. Unfortunately, such quality takes time, and thus Season 2 is a ways away. It's for the best for the highly skilled but beleaguered special effects artists to have ample time to get their work right. Okay, I'm going to stop you right there because I have a background in special effects. I have been working with After Effects and compositing and rotoscoping literally since the early 90s. Okay. Yes, it does take time to do special effects and it does take time to do them well. However, the folks over that, I believe it's Weta, okay, that were involved in the special effects for Season 1 of The Rings of Power, they had time. They had plenty of time. It's probably the only reason why certain scenes look so good, like what they have in the picture here, right? Okay? And the reason why is because they had plenty of time. However, that doesn't mean that they didn't try to cut corners and screw the pooch on some of their visual effects. The first one that jumps to mind, as I can tell you, is the scene when Bronwyn's giving the inspirational speech, right, to the Southlanders, and she's talking to that crowd, and it was pointed out by numerous sources, okay, and there's videos on it, you can look, where they did a copy-paste job, where the crowd was maybe 15 or 20 people, and they broke them up into little small groups, and they copy and pasted them throughout, and you can see it, and you can see that was done on several different scenes. So yes, visual effects do take time, okay, but this show didn't, the stuff that looked good, they did take their time with. In other instances, you could see that they really cut corners and they were rushing to get stuff out the door. Why that was, I don't know. But so let's not just say how perfect the visual effects are. But let's continue. Beyond special visual effects, the series heavily relied on practical effects and natural settings. In particular, it's becoming increasingly common to use volume technology as popularized by The Mandalorian. That's when you see the actors in costume and they're in that it's like a room, but all the walls and ceiling are sort of like these LCD screens and stuff, and they can project and manipulate the images in real time on those screens. So instead of needing a green screen, you're actually sort of in the environment. If you've seen any of the behind the scenes Mandalorian stuff, you know what I'm talking about. House of the Dragon used it limitedly. Is that okay? For dragon riding, but The Lord of the Rings of Poo-Poo, did not at all. That helped the world feel more developed and lived in. Additionally, the use of practical effects, especially for the orcs, helped make the fantastical feel real. Such practical effects made Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings trilogy stand out and were foundationally lacking in his The Hobbit trilogy. So it's good to see their return here. And there you go, folks. You see the little subtle things there, right? We first rope you in with, well, Peter Jackson also did this with The Lord of the Rings. But then we sort of give the backhanded compliment and say, well, he didn't do this shit with The Hobbit, and therefore, it's good that Rings of Power did it, right? And the Rings of Power did not feel anything like the way the Lord of the Rings films did. Not even the Hobbit films, okay? The Rings of Power is a distant third even compared to the Hobbit, right? But I digress. Let's continue. Among the thrilling performances in The Lord of the Rings of Power, Morfydd Clark is leading the charge. Although Guy Ladriel's characterization as a warrior, compared to how audiences saw Cate Blanchett portray her, did result in polarizing responses from audiences. Nevertheless, as the show progressed and developed, Clark's portrayal shone through more effectively. There is still a tinge of Blanchett in it, but this Galadriel is notably younger and hasn't come out of the war against Sauron yet. As a result, she has much to learn to become the figure that fans are familiar with. It was exciting to see different kind of elven fighter, as Galadriel favored swords and her brother's special dagger, while the most recognized elf from The Lord of the Rings, Legolas, is a legendary archer. Choreography of her combat was thrilling and engaging and showcased just how naturally impressive Galadriel is. Her athleticism and skills were on full display during the battle against Adar's army in the Southlands, especially when she dodged an arrow by hanging from her horse while still cutting down enemies.
You serious?
Right? Like, it's redonkulous. Like, that was some of the worst choreographed BS fighting. And the little thing when she's training the Numenorians, what was even that? Like, that just looked like cringy stupid. Anyway. Galadriel's depiction as a warrior is far more significant than it might seem. It demonstrated a darker side to the elves, a vindictive side. She was a warrior because she sought revenge on Sauron for the death of her brother Finrod. In said pursuit, she inadvertently brought on that which she wished to prevent. Her story showed how an elf could fall to the darkness, regardless of the strength of her inner light. While she gives up her brother's knife, Galadriel won't be giving up her warrior ways, although Season 2 and beyond should showcase her transition into the more typical understanding of the character. Okay, there is a whole metric boatload of freaking copium going on in this article. Amazon's original characters, or as I like to say, long-haired Data. He reminds me of Data from Star Trek The Next Generation. Anyway, I think it's Brent Spinner was the actor. While some other recognizable characters play key roles in the coming war, including Elrond, Isildur, and Celebrimbor, The Lord of the Rings of Poo-Poo, introduced audiences to many great original characters. A highlight is Arondir and Bronwyn, playing up the storied love story between elf and human. And I actually did an entire video of how they screwed this up, how they missed an opportunity, okay? And as you guys know, there are very, very few tales of human and elf coming together, right, and falling in love, right? You have Aragorn and Arwen. You have obviously Beren and Luthien. Okay, you have oh god, of course the names would escape me. Right, there's two more. Tour and Idril, Tour and Idril, and I forget the last one, but he was of Numenorian descent. Oh my God, Dol Amroth is his descendants. But anyway, there's four instances of that, and there's a reason for it. It's a very unique and special thing, and they had that opportunity there with Arondir and Bronwyn, and they blew it. They made it just seem like, well, we're just like two crazy kids, sneaking off in the woods for kissy time, and they totally missed the boat on that one. And you guys know this. I did an entire video on it. Anyway, Bron, they're playing up the love story between elf and human. Their love story naturally harkens back to that of Beren and Luthien. Not even close. Not even close. Don't insult the story of Beren and Luthien and J.R.R. Tolkien and Edith by making that comparison. Absolutely not. They are not even in the same frickin' zip code. Legendary First Age heroes who were directly inspired by Tolkien and his wife. Alternatively, an intriguing addition came at the expense of an established character. Instead of featuring Isildur's brother, Anarion, they created a sister, Arien, who even got to use a Palantir. And that completely sucked. She was, how do I say this politically correct, in a safe way? She was like boobs on a bull. Serves no function. Okay, she was completely a complete waste of time. Complete waste of time. An unexpected development came through Adar and the gradual expansion of the orc mythology. Adar is a mysterious key figure and will have an important role to play in Season 2, regardless of the recasting. Initially, he was positioned to make audiences think he could be Sauron, or at least logically that he was working for the Dark Lord. However, the show masterfully revealed that Adar is one of the first orcs, or Uruk, created by Morgoth. He owed no allegiance to Sauron and wished to protect his people. Now that Sauron's in Mordor, Season 2 will likely feature a significant power struggle between the two. The Harfoots as early hobbits. Another fascinating cultural depiction was the Harfoots. They were largely insular compared to the other storylines, but that allowed for a deeper examination of things like their perspective on non-Harfoots and what happens if a Harfoot is left behind or goes off trail during their migration. Well, they leave them to die, or they actively set them up so that they will eventually die. They are little half-sized psychopath crazy MFers, and there's with no redeeming qualities to them whatsoever. They are so not the same type of creatures, either from a personality wise, from characteristic wise, or just from the way they are depicted in the show. They are not the same as the Merry, Pippin, Sam, Frodo that we all know and love. These are like borderline psychos that will kill each other at the drop of a dime, because you might slow them down. Though their inclusion here perplexes some. Harfoots are described as early hobbits, though their inclusion here perplexes some. Hobbits and the like weren't discovered and recorded until the Third Age. As such, it's believed that their story can't see them truly interact with anyone besides other Harfoots and now the stranger. Nevertheless, their depiction was a delightful addition to The Lord of the Rings of Poo-Poo, even when there are got just as... okay, Bradley, the English there. Okay, you're so caught up in the English. Even when there are got just as dark and terrifying as others, that classic Hobbit optimistic and heartwarming aura still lightened the tone. The show even did what Tolkien never could. It killed off a Harfoot, Sardok Burrows, because Tolkien's weren't irredeemable psychotic bastards. He didn't have to kill them. Okay, you wanted them to survive. You wanted Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin to survive. He didn't have to kill all of them. Okay, it's just the simple fact that Frodo is forever changed by his experience, right? And not in a good way. He comes ultimately he's still bearing the scars, and that's why he goes into the West, right? Because he's still bearing the scars of being stabbed with the Morgul blade, as well as understanding the damage that being a ring bearer did to him, and the fact that ultimately he succumbed to it, right? While everyone else is viewing him as a hero, in his heart, he knows that at the end of the day, he sort of came up short, right? And so that he's forever changed by that, and that alone, you feel sorry for him. That you have empathy and sympathy for that character, right? Pity, as Gandalf would say, or mercy, right? The same way that Frodo had to learn to feel that towards Gollum, in an ironic twist. So Tolkien didn't need to kill anybody to have you feel for them, to have you empathize with them, right? Whereas with the little psycho bastards known as Harfoots in the Rings of Poo-Poo, yeah, you had to kill one of them off to get anything remotely like caring about them. And even then, it came up short. When he died at the end in the season finale, I didn't care. I was just like, yeah, all right, whatever. And while that moment was naturally heartbreaking, no, it wasn't, there was something so inspiring and hopeful to it, too. Yes, that we would never have to deal with that character again. From Poppy's joyful song to Nori's inquisitive spirit to their distinct culture, the Harfoots were foundational to making the show feel authentic as a Lord of the Rings ripoff show. As a Lord of the Rings show. Life in Khazad-dûm. Dwarves also got a lovely nuanced depiction throughout The Lord of the Rings of Poo-Poo, in showing Khazad-dûm before its demise. Much of this comes as Elrond sparks up his friendship with Prince Durin again after not seeing him for 20 years. Tragically, while they're dynamic together, their relationship is doomed as the series has delved into why dwarves traditionally hate elves. Outside that relationship, Durin's wife, Disa, played by Sofia Nomvede, stood out remarkably. She was delightfully witty and charming and a great introduction to female dwarves who were utterly missing from Jackson's films. There, again, another swipe at Jackson. Her plea to the rocks is one of the season's most invigorating sequences. No, it wasn't. It was actually boring and stupid and nonsensical. Okay, and everybody who watched it knows. Unfortunately, not everything is great in Khazad-dûm. Like their rivals, the elves, the dwarves are surrounded by turmoil, though they might not know it. Prince Durin wishes to achieve great things for his people while helping Elrond and his people. Thus, he butts heads with his father, King Durin III, with the discovery of Mithril, albeit with befuddling new origins. The show begins to spell out their doom. The Balrog of Moria has awoken, and Season 2 will undoubtedly feature the creation of the Dwarven Rings of Power, so Khazad-dûm's days are numbered. First Age Tolkien callbacks. Surprisingly, Tolkien's legendary lore can be easily broken, especially in the First and Second Ages in The Lord of the Rings of Poo-Poo. This has been a very contentious point among the fan base, as many view the canon as sacred and unimpeachable. However, while there have been some changes to the lore, the first season also featured some thoughtful and fascinating callbacks. The most astounding was the entire opening in Valinor, detailing pivotal moments such as the darkening of Valinor, the Noldor's departure to Middle-earth, and even hinting at the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. Okay, no, absolutely wrong. The Noldor's departure to Middle-earth, in that opening, they say that they're going off to war, which was not what the Noldor were doing. They were going to get the Silmarils back. The show implies something completely different. It leaves out Ungoliant with the trees of Valinor. No, just no. Some of the best callbacks to the First Age come from Easter eggs, one of which harkens to the secret fire and Morgoth's true goal. Another relates again to the legendary elf Luthien, as she was revered among the dead in Lindon's sacred grove. Luthien was a key inspiration throughout The Lord of the Rings of Poo-Poo, and not only for Arondir and Bronwyn's relationship, Galadriel's own meet cute with her husband, Celeborn, strangely missing from season 1, but will feature in future seasons, was reminiscent of Beren and Luthien's. I'm not even going to say anything there. Elrond's backstory was also rightfully a focus. He is the son of the legendary heroes Earendil, the Mariner, and Elwing, great grandson of Beren and Luthien, and twin to Elros, the first king of Numenor. Earendil and Elwing were crucial in persuading the Valar to join the fight against Morgoth in the War of Wrath. In honor of his actions, Earendil was tasked to carry the Evening Star and thus became a revered figure. If there were to be another prequel series, Earendil would be the perfect focal point, as Galadriel is in The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Poopoo, the creation of Mordor. Early in the season, theories arose about a mountain scene in the background of Arondir, Bronwyn, and Theo's Ark in the Southlands. Fans put two and two together, surmising that it must be Orodruin, or what is better known as Mount Doom. Knowledgeable viewers couldn't have expected it would erupt this season, instead thinking they're just laying the groundwork for the future. Yet, to their utter surprise, Episode 6 concluded with Mount Doom erupting, decimating the surrounding fertile land, and in Episode 7, Adar renamed the Southlands Mordor. The entire sequence was shocking and pivotal in raising the stakes for the series. Not really, because you had Galadriel take a pyroclastic flow. Yeah, see, and now I can't even talk. Take a pyroclastic flow to the face. She got bukkakied by a volcano, and the only thing that got messed up was her hair. That's all I have to say about that. This moment is nuanced in ways audiences weren't prepared for. It was not Sauron who brought about Mordor's creation, nor was it done in his honor, even though he will come to rule it. Instead, Adar concocted this elaborate plan to make the volcano erupt, to shroud the land in darkness, and finally give him and his fellow Uruk the home they deserve. While it caused and was enacted by untold suffering, there's an unexpectedly compelling sense of heart behind it. Moments like this are why The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Poopoo Season 1 was so grippingly entertainment, and audiences are eager for Season 2.
Serious?
Yeah. Right. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, there's not really much more to say other than Bradley Prom and the people at Screen Rant. Like, this article is all about the copium right here. This is all about sort of propping up Rings of Crap. Because of the announcement that by Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema that actually people who really know how to adapt Tolkien are actually going to be getting back into the game of adapting Tolkien. Now, that's not to say that they couldn't screw it up, right? The Hobbit was less than the Lord of the Rings adaptations, but still better than the Rings of Crap that Amazon is putting out. So this article is nothing but cope and seethe and just, them trying to run in interference and take a couple of pot shots at Peter Jackson. So there you have it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Clearly, Mr. Prom is delusional and is writing a shill hype piece for Amazon's crappy show. And yeah, I'll just call it out for what it is. That's exactly what this article is. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay? Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. And remember, if you like the video, like the video. If you want to share the video, by all means, do so. It gets it seen. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm. If you have not subscribed, I would hope that you would consider subscribing to the channel and joining the army of beautiful badasses. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you. I appreciate it. From the bottom of my heart, it means the world to me. And that's why we do what we do, because we are drawing a line in the sand and defending the professor and his works from crap shows like this and from crap shill, quote-unquote, journalists, entertainment journalists like this who, cannot, acknowledge that this show is garbage. all right, and feel the need to now defend it or run a smokescreen because real people who know how to make entertaining adaptations of Tolkien's work are getting back in the game, and now the Amazon camp is scared shitless. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you think Mr. Prom has got it right on any front there? Because I can't see anywhere where anything he was saying was accurate. So that's just me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. All right, folks, remember, be good, be awesome, be safe, but more importantly, always stay more dorkish. Peace.